Last autumn, Josh and I spent a couple of weeks exploring more of Scotland in all of its foggy, rainy and colourful beauty. I've still got a few more of those adventures to share with you. I was really craving a hike up a mountain to get a view of the wide, rugged landscape and feel the autumn wind on my face. It felt exhilarating. If it wasn't for us humans, all of this would be a biodiverse rainforest ecosystem, storing carbon, binding the loose slopes, blocking the rain from impacting the soils, soaking up and slowing and filtering the rushing water, preventing erosion and flooding. We could let that forest restore itself here, but of course, sometimes we need to borrow some space from nature to manage sustainably in order to create food for ourselves. But far too often, neither of those options of restoration or sustainable management are being chosen. Instead, vast swathes of Scotland are being grazed bare by too many sheep and deer, and burned for grouse until the vegetation is lost and the soils are washed away, leaving the land exhausted, the rivers polluted and our homes flooded. On our way back down, we came across a landslip which had brought down a fence. Scottish soils store over half of the UK's soil carbon, much more than in all of the forests combined. Healthy soils can take centuries or millennia to build up, but can be degraded and lost much, much faster through mismanagement and climate change. In the long term, nature loses, and so do we. Our next destination was Fortingall Churchyard, home to Britain's oldest being, a 5,000-year-old yew tree. I was so excited to meet this majestic ancient tree. The reality was pretty disappointing. The tree was hidden behind a tall stone wall and seemed much smaller than lots of the far younger yew trees we have visited in other places. Archaeologists have found evidence hinting at the spiritual significance of this site since the Bronze Age. It's common for churches to be built upon old sacred sites. This yew would have been huge and ancient by the time this place was Christianized in the early Middle Ages. So, what happened to the Fortingall yew? The enormous holy yew had already become well known by the 18th century, and visitors wanted to take mementos of this sacred yew home with them. So, entire branches and big chunks of the trunk were cut off to make drinking cups and trinkets to sell. You can imagine how, to a visitor, it might have felt harmless to buy just a little wooden pendant, especially if other people were buying them whether or not you did. We all make these sorts of bargains with nature, with every flight we take and every gadget we buy. In a last-minute effort to save the tree from total destruction, a stone wall was built around it. The Fortingall yew is a shadow of what it once was, because people wanted to extract its value and literally consume it. so their gain was the tree's loss. But if this protection can be maintained, a limitless number of people can enjoy the yew for as long as it survives, getting the value of its sheer presence without the tree paying the price. As the sun was starting to set, we continued our journey, driving towards our next destination, whilst on the lookout for a place to car camp for the night. On the way, we drove past one of Scotland's oldest hydroelectric power stations, a stunning building from the 1930s. At the time the power station was built, people knew very little about the changing climate, and less still about the role us humans play in it. It was never intended as a green power solution. People just saw the opportunity of the energy in the fast-flowing rivers in the area. When they are first built, these power stations change the course of the rivers and disrupt the ecosystems in them, for example, blocking the migration of fish. But although nature pays that initial cost, after that, we can continue to receive all the electricity we need indefinitely, at no further cost to nature. All nature is asking of us, in exchange for all it gives us, is the right to continue to exist. And in this case, it can. We receive and receive without nature giving up anything more. It's a huge difference from the mismanagement of the soil and the yew, where the temporary gains of humans come at the permanent loss of nature.
One more cup of coffee on the road.
Thank you. The next morning, after warming up with hot cups of coffee brewed on the camping stove, we headed out to a wildlife hide on the shores of Loch Sonat. This time, here in this wildlife hide, our human relationship with nature wasn't any kind of transaction between separate parties with conflicting interests. Here we were just part of nature. It was beautiful. The hide is a fairly simple wooden structure integrated into the landscape. We were talking to a local who told us that he comes here almost every day to watch the seals go about their day. Unlike looking at the yew tree behind the wall, here we were nested amidst nature, watching the seals forage in the water or rest on the rocks.